Corporation for Public Broadcasting is shutting down after Congress pulled its funding. The CPB has been around for nearly 60 years. It provides federal funding to local public radio and TV stations across the country, like NPR and PBS. CPB says it has informed employees that a majority of its staff will be terminated at the end of September. Now,
What's good? I've been thinking about the recent funding cuts to public broadcasting. It's not just the news. It's the sense of quiet that follows. That something so familiar that was a part of American life for 50 years is just gone. And this isn't a small shift. I see the logic behind the politics, but I also see the tangible loss of infrastructure communities relied on. Put simply, this is a political win for some, but a concrete loss for others. This was a statement about what we as a country decide is worth paying for together. First, there's the scale. It wasn't just big brands like NPR and PBS. It was a network of over 1,500 local independent news and radio stations that reach 130 million Americans. For rural communities, this federal funding was the bridge, the thing that ensured that they weren't cut off from the rest of the world. Take KYUK, a station in Alaska serving 58 remote communities in an area the size of Oregon. They relied on this funding for 80% of their budget. Now they might have to shut down. Second, it was an emergency lifeline. It's easy to forget, but when a hurricane hits or wildfires spread, power and internet are often the first things to go. That's why FEMA calls it mission critical. So by cutting the funding, we're losing a safety net that we didn't even know we had. And third, for millions of kids without preschool, PBS Kids was their first classroom. So when you remove a free service that equals 3 months of learning in the classroom, what fills that gap? And that raises the central question. If these public news and radio stations are so valuable, how did we get here? For the last 50 years, there have been two arguments. It's too expensive and it's biased. But is it?
My View host Laura Trump joins us now to react. So, Laura, this is something that we've been trying to do forever, and it is finally happening.
Yeah, and this is so great, Katie, for everybody across the country, because look, these institutions are supposed to be there to inform people, and they are legally not supposed to have a political bias. But you look at the NPR newsroom, there was a whistleblower who broke the story that 87 registered Democrats were editors in their newsroom. Guess how many registered Republicans there were? Zero.
Last year, the federal budget allocated $535 million for this system, which works out to about $1.60 per person, making it one of the smallest federal expenses. Now, the bias argument is where things get complicated, because we're being asked to reconcile two conflicting truths. On one hand, research has shown for 21 straight years that PBS is the most trusted news source in America, trusted by Democrats and Republicans. On the other, Republicans have data showing a consistently negative tone towards their side. But what's most telling is where the impact hits the hardest. The states that rely most on this funding, like Alaska, West Virginia, and others across the rural South and Midwest, are the ones whose communities overwhelmingly voted for the Republican Party that drove this change. And in doing so, it creates hundreds of new news deserts where we know that community engagement drops and public corruption rises. So I'll leave you with a few things I've been thinking about. If trusted, low-cost institutions like public broadcasting can be eliminated despite measurable public benefit, what else are we at risk of losing simply because it doesn't fit a political narrative? Also, in a world of algorithmic feeds and social media, what happens when the last remaining source of non-commercial, community-rooted media goes silent? And lastly, if half of American preschoolers don't have access to early education and public media's free resources vanish, who's accountable for that gap?
Now, Mr. Rogers is certainly one of the best things that's ever happened to public television, and his Peabody Award is testament to that fact. We in public television are proud of Fred Rogers, and I'm proud to present Mr. Rogers to you now. Fred.
All right, Rogers, you got the floor.
A few moments later.
I think it's wonderful. I think it's wonderful. Looks like you just earned the $20 million.